Replacement expresses the meaning of or. It shows an alternative to what has preceded. Here is the list of conjuncts which express replacement: alternatively, rather, again, worse, and better. Worse means what is worse, and better means what is better. Here are some examples. You can walk home if you wish. Better, I can give you a lift. Here we mean by better what is better, and it is not part of the sentence as you see. This sentence is different from the sentence, for instance, John is taller, or my mark is better than your mark. This is not the case of a conjunct. Here better means or, an alternative, and it is a better alternative. The second option is better than the first option. Worse is the opposite. The second example, in order to buy the car, I draw on my savings. Or I might approach my parents for a loan. Here I don't use or, I say alternatively. Next, we can meet in the office shop. Alternatively, you could come to visit me. Now the conjunct of contrast. Contrast means expressing differences or opposition. We have many conjuncts which are used for this purpose. We have contrariwise, conversely, instead, on the contrary, in contrast, by way of contrast, in comparison, by way of comparison, on the one hand and on the other hand. Here we have a list of some conjuncts which are synonymous. We take in contrast, by way of contrast, in comparison, by way of comparison. Here, these are synonymous. We take on the one hand and on the other hand. They go together. So if you have two sentences, before the first sentence we use on the one hand, before the second sentence we use on the other hand. Here it is possible to drop the word hand in the second part. The other conjuncts have express difference or opposition, but they have very special meanings. Each one has a special meaning. Some examples. I did not ask her to leave. On the contrary, I wanted her to stay. You see the contrast. He is rather foolish. By comparison, she is a genius. Here I can use in contrast, by way of contrast, in comparison, by way of comparison instead. Now here is an example with on the one hand and on the other hand. Notice that we say on the one hand and on the other hand. We don't say in the other hand. Never change the preposition of a conjunct. They are idiomatic. So on the one hand, I want to sell the house. On the other hand, I cannot bear the idea of moving. Here we have opposition. Next, he did not join the Navy. Instead, he decided to become an actor. Again, we have opposition. The next relationship is concession. This is the meaning of bet. If you still remember, when we talked about bets, we have two ideas. The second one is unexpected in view of the first one. The list of conjuncts which show concession are the following: however, nonetheless, notwithstanding, nevertheless, still, though, yet, in any case, at any rate, in spite of that, after all, at the same time, on the other hand, and all the same. So they are synonymous. Here there are some which are used with very specific meanings, like after all, And notice that on the other hand is used alone here. So when on the other hand is used alone, it expresses concession and not contrast. It has the meaning of but. Here are the examples. The hotel was terrible. Still, we were lucky with the weather. It means, however, we were lucky with the weather. You can say also, nonetheless, we were lucky with the weather, or notwithstanding, we were lucky with the weather, or nevertheless, we were lucky with the weather. Yet, we were lucky with the weather. Now, she arrived late, however, it didn't matter. I'll be very busy tomorrow. At any rate, or in any case, I'll visit you. I expect you are right. I'll ask him. Though. Now, when you use though in this way, this is informal. And if we write in a formal way, if we would like to write in a formal way, it's preferable to use however and in spite of that. Another example, you have to be strict. At the same time, you have to be sympathetic. So at the same time here does not express time. It expresses concession. The next one, she's lying. All the same, there is some truth in what she says. Here you see, we mean she's lying, but there is some truth in what she says. He objects. Notwithstanding, I am determined to do it. This is the meaning of but. They may not arrive at all. At any rate, they'll be very late. Temporal transition is another relationship expressed by conjuncts. This means time relationship. There are 4 conjuncts used for this purpose: meantime, meanwhile, in the meantime, and in the meanwhile. Here are some examples. Leave the cake to cool, meanwhile make the icing. It means at the same time. I continued working, meantime she went or he went shopping. He spent the day gardening, meanwhile I just sat around and read. He was born in Britain and retired to Germany. In the meantime, he spent many years in France. So the 4 conjuncts are synonymous. The last relationship that can be expressed by conjuncts is emphasis. This means that the second idea stresses the first idea. We have 3 conjuncts: indeed, in fact, and of course. Here are some examples. I didn't mind at all. Indeed, I was pleased. So the idea I was pleased is stressed. The second one, of course, I will help you to move. That's what friends are for. Now we have the conjunct of course, but of course we expect that there is a sentence that is said before. And the same thing is found in the next example. He was in fact near death by the time they reached him. This is the second sentence and we expect to have another sentence said before. Notice that I have changed the place of in fact in the second clause. We can as well put it at the beginning or at the end. Just we have to respect punctuation. We come now to the exercise. Write passages in which you illustrate the use of conjuncts of replacement, contrast, concession, temporal transition, and emphasis. Try to write as much as you can. Send your examples to me and they will be corrected together. Just a remark about conjuncts in general. If we want to make the relationships between sentences in our writing clear, we resort to the use of conjuncts. But in paragraph writing in general or in essay writing, we do have other tools to link the sentences. The conjuncts are only one of these available tools. In this lesson, you are trained on how to use the conjuncts, but this doesn't mean that before every sentence we should have a conjunct. Sometimes the relationships are expressed differently. Thank you.